Welcome back, Summoners, as we head into our second matchup for today for the Garena Premier League 2017 summer season. Of course, this is the knockout stage, and I'm talking about the game between Vietnam's Young Generation versus Thailand's Ascension Gaming. Before anything else, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. We are going to be your casters for this, Arctic Your Service Fam, and of course, with me is Atlas, and my oh my, after having come from a 3-0 with a Gigabyte Marine securing their slot to the next stage, anything can happen. But talking about this game.
Yeah, talking about this game, Young Generation has actually surprised me. Because they were swept by Gigabyte Marines, but it turns out the region is super strong. It's just that GAM was just performing on an entirely different plane of existence. So for now, YG has proven themselves to be very, very strong. They are contenders, and Ascension will be their opponent. Right now, Ascension has not played any games because they were waiting here in the knockout stage. So they have the advantage of information. We'll be seeing how they actually use the information that they have over YG here in a pick and ban phase, banning out these Void monsters. Cho'Gath and Kog'Maw will not be used by Young Generation. As for YG, they'll be banning out Zac from Nuni as well as Jisoo's Jace. Could also go to G4 actually.
Yeah, and we'll just have to see. So what I'm actually interested in seeing here is that we're actually seeing a totally different Ascension Gaming from what we've seen during the last GPL, because as we've mentioned earlier during the previous game, Noe was actually on this roster before actually going back to his home country, Vietnam, to join the Gigabyte Marine. So from what we've seen during the previous Rift Rivals, Ascension Gaming, they kind of lost a little bit of their gas power, I'd say, from their full power during the GPL. So I'm actually interested in seeing how this will affect them, or if they've necessarily made the all the proper measures to avoid that kind of slump that they had during Rift Rivals.
Yeah, they've had a lot of time to practice and prepare and recover from Rift Rivals. And I do think that their performance in Rift Rivals isn't very indicative of how they do in a very serious tournament like a GPL. So we'll be seeing how all that fares. But looking at the YG, they are picking up quite a strong set of champions already. The Renekton and the Elise. Lots of early game pressure for Venus. As for Ascension, very scary off the bat, picking up the Callista and then following it up with a Sejuani. So I'm expecting more melee champions for Ascension. Probably the Braum. Maybe YG will pick that up or ban it out in the second banning phase if they don't pick it up. Seems like Ascension will be their top laner or their jungler. This is still very, very flexible for their two picks. So that's very good flexibility for the mind games coming to the second pick phase. YG, what will be their third pick and final pick for the first phase?
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting because this is actually the first time that we're going to be seeing both Ascension Gaming and Young Generation go up against each other. Like you did mention, Young Generation, regardless of coming from Vietnam, they were cleaned up by Gigabyte Marines. But nonetheless, I'd still peg Young Generation as one of the potential favorites and top teams to maybe make it.
That's true.
To Worlds, so we'll
because
just
they proved themselves to be completely dominating in a group stage, even beating out everyone else to this and coming into the first seed into the knockout stage from the group stages. So that's why they're facing up against Ascension. Seems like YG will be picking up half of their bot lane here. Tristana. So the Lulu will be banned away. I'm kind of thinking that they should. Okay, they did ban out the Cassiopeia against Ascension, but I do think it would have been okay for them to not ban out the Cass and just give the Cassiopeia onto Naul, because I think that is quite a powerful combination, Tristana and Cassiopeia, because there's so much potential in the late game for that. But we'll see Thresh ban out against Warlock. That is one of the champions that he likes using. As for Ascension, their final ban will either be in the support role or the mid lane. I'm expecting a mid lane ban to top it all off. But while waiting for that, still very scary. Ascension, Callista, Jarvan, Sejuani, whichever support that Lloyd will be picking up along, for Warlock, it will be very potent. Probably going to go melee. It might be the Braum actually. I'm expecting it to be Braum. As for YG, we'll see if they'll take away the Braum as their first pick in the second pick phase.
Yes, indeed. We're still seeing Young Generation undecided on what they want to go for, but looks like the Janna going to be hovered over. Interesting.
Okay, so they will not be taking it away, instead going for Janna instead. Very, very strong. Lots of potential coming into the mid and late game. And that's a lot of buffer for Big Koro, which for the mid game, which is one of Tristana's weakest points in the game. Janna will help pad that weakness. As for Ascension, we'll see what their final pick will be. Final 2 picks will be, rather. Because I'm really expecting Janna here, or rather a Braum here, but it seems like it will be the Rakan instead, opting for that mobility and that initiation potential. Just dive in there. So really looking to just go in deep with these 2 frontliners and the Rakan. We'll see what G4 has to bring to the table.
Yeah, a lot of great initiation tools coming in from Ascension Gaming. It looks like they'll be topping that up with a lot of firepower in the mid lane by going for this Syndra pick. So overall, I'm liking the composition that Ascension Gaming has. A fairly good balance, actually. But we'll just have to see how Young Generation will be responding to this with the fast pick. Wow!
Of the Black Rose being picked up by Naul here. Quite a lot of assassination potential. I can see a lot of times that Venus and Naul will be roaming around the map, taking kills, and just dominating. And look at this, G4 and Lloyd are quite vulnerable in the early game and the early parts of the mid game. So I'm pretty sure that Naul and Venus will want to constantly gank these carries.
Indeed.
But I'm really liking YG's composition. As for Ascension, it's really good. Lots of tools to engage. That is just scary if they have all their cooldowns out and then YG is not prepared to counter it. But I do think that a Braum would have been so good here because it's a natural synergy with Nuni Sejuani, and it's just all that and just having enough more melee champions to really stack up the permafrost. But here they only have 2 melee champions, the Sejuani and the Jarvan. That could be enough for them, but you know, the lost value in having 3 members free to just stack up the permafrost. But overall, very good composition from both sides.
And yeah, this is definitely going to be an interesting game right here. I feel like, unlike earlier, wherein we could definitely say that Gigabyte Marines definitely has a huge upper hand in comparison to Team Illegals. For this game, I'd say it's almost kind of hard to determine if it's going to be equal, or maybe Young Generation will perform just as well as their Vietnamese first seed counterpart. But
because the viewers and us too don't have a lot of information.
Indeed.
It's that Ascension, the only information we have is from Rift Rivals and the previous GPL and all the VODs that come from the Thailand's Pro League. But as for YG, we also only have the VODs as well as this GPL to work on. So they are both question marks in this GPL, but what cannot be doubted, however, is that they're both strong teams.
Indeed.
Ascension would not be waiting in the knockout stage if they were a weak team, and YG would not be first seed from group stage if they were not strong. So I'm expecting a really explosive match from these 2 teams, especially considering the team compositions they have picked up. A pick comp with great scaling and decent early game on YG compared to Ascension's all-in, just dive in deep composition.
And if you think about it, like, if you're going to look at the history, rather, of where this Vietnamese team is coming from, having emerged as a second seed, it's interesting to note that Naul actually had his LeBlanc banned out 3 times during the game that determined who will ultimately win their own Vietnamese league. But looks like I'm going to have to hold that as we head into the game. Ren already taking quite the harass coming in from GC.
It is only the first minute, so we can just harmlessly recall back. Both of these top laners actually recall back to regenerate the health and just be healthy in time for the minions to spawn. But looking at where the junglers will start is the most important, one of the most important things to look at here at the very level 1s of this game. So we'll be seeing, seems to be both bot side starts for Nuni and Venus, placing a lot of emphasis on being able to control around the mid lane and top lane.
So there we go. Looks like both junglers will be starting off same sides of the map, transitioning towards the top side to mid side. We'll just have to see how that works out. But overall, I'm actually interested in seeing how this matchup will kind of go for both G4 and Nao here. Because both mid laners are very, very prominent in their respective leagues.
That's true. And look at that. Very aggressive already at level 1. Seems like for here, Pallet and Big Koro being bullied out a little bit by Lloyd and Warlock. They do not want Lloyd and Warlock to get the early level 2. Especially since Warlock has the Ignite. Big Koro and Pallet actually going for a very survivable lane here. Look at those summer spells. Barrier on Big Koro, heal on Pallet. So definitely going for a slower laning phase to let Big Koro scale up.
Oh, definitely. And at the end of the day, we're just going to have to see how that works out for them. Though, looks like bot lane going to be pushed out. Actually, across the board, with the exception of mid lane, which is kind of on neutral ground here, pushed up towards top and bottom lane, respectively. So how that'll ultimately affect the rotation for Nooney, that's something we're going to see.
Does this look like something that Nooney will really want to either dive top lane? Ooh, G4 getting very, very low against Naul here. Naul has the capacity to just regen a lot of health with a Corrupting Potion. Out of charges at this point, but still a sizable health lead against G4.
Yeah, and just one full combo right there, but looks like Jisoo getting a... just really giving Ren...
Yeah. This is the pattern we're seeing right now. The ones with the Corrupting Potions, the solo laners with that potion are actually ahead of the other opposing laner, and Ren's Doran's Blade is not enough to actually counter the sustain, the sheer sustain that Jisoo can pull out.
Man, these mid laners are just really juking it out in the trades here, but looks like as this goes along, though, because of the nature of having picked up Corrupting Potion, now still very healthy on the mana side.
Nooney might be going for something against Ren. He is still full health, and this is quite far, rather quite near to the turret, so he can just go for the slice and dice away. So at this point, I think both Nooney and Venus will just see each other. Venus actually sees Nooney.
Indeed, Cocoon actually connects. Nooney might be in a bit of trouble here. Ren actually going to go for the response as well. Repels right in. Nooney just trying to escape it out here. Ren actually going to go and gets the stun.
Oh dear.
Okay, I was actually expecting that no one might be getting it, but nonetheless, looks like they will be securing it instead.
I like it more going to Ren, because of course, you'd see the logic. Okay, Naul needs those kills so he can roam around and dominate the game, but with Ren getting that kill, now Jisoo is at a disadvantage in terms of gold. Once Ren actually spends his gold, he will be at quite an advantage against Jisoo.
Agreeable.
300 gold can actually mean a lot in the early game. That will either give you a lead in terms of the small components, or it will let you get your first medium-sized item, a recall before the other laner. So this actually might be very effective. And here, the tempo is actually now on Ren's side as he overpowers Jisoo into the turret, and now this gives him a pretty good back timer to spend that extra 300 gold he got from the kill. 400 actually.
Indeed, but overall, like, regardless of Ren getting that kill, though, we'll be going for the recall now. So he will be items up into his lane counterpart. And I actually have to agree with you. Looking at it in retrospect, it's actually good that Ren did get the kill, because earlier on, he was getting pushed in by Jisoo here. So I feel like with this one kill up, it'll definitely give him that balance in the top side, and it actually gives much more flexibility to Venus as well, as far as not really needing to go as hard towards top.
Well, for now, now Will might catch out G4 here.
Oh man, we'll be getting a full combo, but not even...
Very nicely traded.
Yes, indeed.
But the thing here is that now since Jisoo no longer has stacks of Corrupting Potion, they only have their Doran's Blade and Cloth Armor to work on. G4 might fall here.
No, very, very careful there, but we'll be receiving a full combo coming there from G4. Ultimate also gets the kill, but Venus will be able to get G4. No, actually gets creep block from that Spiderling from
G4
proceeding.
With the level up, timed well against Naul all-inning him.
Yes.
And because Naul over commits to that one, even as G4 reaches level 6, he dies and pays with his life.
Yes, and that's definitely going to be good for G4. They might actually be able to either grab a pair of boots or potentially...
Yeah, the boots will be the pickup
there we go.
here. It'll be quite effective. The Doran's Ring on top of that for just more health and AP. So the boots will actually help him out in terms of roaming around the map if he wants to, and dodging those chains that will come from Naul.
Yeah, it could definitely take a lot more damage coming in from Naul with that double Doran. So ultimately, good start here for G4.
As for Naul on his back, or actually after respawning, he picks up Dark Seal. Pretty decent pickup. It doesn't have to build into a Magi's,
Indeed.
but it's so useful in the early game if you have Corrupting Potion. It means your Corrupting Potion has 25%, around 25% more effectivity in terms of its regeneration for you. 2 Amp Tomes means a lot of AP for Naul, so the trades will usually go into G4's favor at this point.
Interesting though, young generation already starting to build up on some offensive vision towards Ascension gaming side, so that'll definitely be great information for them.
They will want that, all of that vision, especially bot side. Infernal Drake is actually going to be a contested objective for these guys, especially on the side of YG. YG definitely wants that. Seems like Ren actually taking a little bit of a beating, and the early pickup for the Bramble Vest is actually really great against Ren.
Indeed.
Because it will cut down the regeneration that he gets from Kuldamik.
Overall though, still looking very, very equal for both sides here. So, you know, both sides just kind of boding their time, waiting for windows of opportunity. But then again, I feel like once we head into those mid-game flashes, and that's where things will get really, really good for whichever triumphs. But looks like towards top here, Jisoo trying to kite around Ren. Here goes for the Cataclysm, but in exchange, the Dominus will be popped.
He does have full Fury. He can go for a lot of healing with the Kuldamik if he wants to, but instead tries to go for the wave clear. Pretty even trade, ultimates and health all around for the top side. Seems like the blue buff turnover will happen for G4, so that he knows, everyone knows that Nooney is around there on the top side. This should give
their knockup
a signal.
Necessarily connect though. Knockup though does connect in exchange onto Big Koro here. That does save Lloyd there. Very, very low health. Very close call as well.
But yeah, I like how YG's bot lane played that. Whether or not that was intentional to time it with a blue buff turnover, that was great. Since it forces the heal out of Lloyd, though it does cost Big Koro's flash. So the next fight, Big Koro and Pallet will definitely win that because they have 2 survivability spells compared to no heal and only ignite from Warlock.
Indeed. In exchange though, looks like Lloyd knockup connecting by Warlock just to kind of scare away.
Sneaky. Ren wants to fight Jisoo.
Yes, Jisoo will be able to get out of there. Nooney as well for that extra protection.
Yeah, unfortunate for YG that the flag and drag combo was not interrupted by the stun from Ruthless Predator. Seems like here. No.
Lloyd though gonna be going for this Vampiric Scepter, you know, just for that extra sustain in order to make up for that heal down.
Going for a slower early game here still. Vamp Scepter Pascal is very respectable regen here in the bot lane. But it seems like Big Koro really wants to kill him with a BF sword and be ahead in terms of the itemization actually. So just now building into that attack speed item for Big Koro, definitely something that he wants to pick up. So the next fight that happens at the bot lane, Big Koro will definitely win it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Unless there's jungle intervention, but Lloyd just wants to sit back, relax, and get the sustain up.
And let's say if ever they do succeed in on 2v2, or even from a gank, then that's just going to allow Pallet easier access to that Ardent Center, which is going to make Big Koro all the more painful and quite the threat.
I do think that Venus and Naul have to start roaming around. And because I think now at this point, Naul has the power to match G4's push now that the blue buff has stopped, has expired. He can match the push with the Shatter Orb and just roam around the map. And that is actually central to the early game of this composition, I believe. Naul and Venus roaming around to get kills for Big Koro, for Naul, is going to be very important. And I think they should start pulling the trigger on that very, very soon. Especially either on G4, which is in the lane of Naul himself, or onto the bot lane. Because right now is a very big point of weakness for Lloyd. No combat stats almost whatsoever. So that is a prime opportunity to gank the bot lane, while Big Koro is an item ahead of Lloyd.
Ooh, Venus right there, though. Actually holds off on the recall in case this lane might actually push a bit, but no, it's actually Young Generation's wave that's kind of building up there. So it looks like Venus will have to hold off for the meantime. Glacial Prison actually connects. Full combo will get the kill, but yes, that is going to be the case as Naul goes down, ultimately going to Noon.
Oh man, that was brutal coming from Nooney, just to throw in the flail and then the unleash power from G4 just to finish the job along with the Arctic Assault. That is quite the pain, and Naul getting 0-2'd is not the ideal situation for a LeBlanc. It seems like he's going for that build with a Merc Treads for the resist and the Gunblade for split pushing, and a little bit of burst damage as well.
Looks like Thailand's representing. I mean, this isn't beyond the home court advantage. This is just them really showing a good fight thus far. Ooh, Venus taking a lot of damage though, but looks like we have a little bit of a duel here up top as Jisoo trying to retreat back to turret, gets the knockup, and looks like he will be able to recall to safety for the meantime.
This does give Ran a little bit of time to push that top lane, but it seems like he's just going to recall, get his items, which will allow Jisoo to actually shove back the lane before recalling himself. But 2 kills, rather 2 deaths on Naul is quite bad for YG. You do not really want an assassin like LeBlanc to be on the backside, back foot of the laning.
The G4 has to be a little bit more careful as he is leaning towards lesser mana here.
Definitely. Still has to be very, very careful, but so far, Nooney has been quite good at the ganking here, very good timing. And Venus as well, pretty good timing elsewhere for the mid lane, though Noel's kind of feeling the pain and pressure from G4. That's a 20 CS difference between G4 and Naul, and a kill difference as well, which can be sizable.
I mean, gotta hand it to Nooney right there. That Glacial Prison, if you're gonna look at it, was almost, if I'm not mistaken, within max range. So a good catch-up, but looks like Victoria is gonna try to get a little bit of offensive onto Lloyd. But
G4 trying to roam top lane. He will get spotted by Ward near the bush. Seems like, I think they really need to start pulling the trigger here. Naul has just been staying around mid lane for so long. Now he's trying to actually start roaming around, but at this point he has been spotted out.
Yeah,
might go for a 5-man here in the bot lane, however.
Misses out on the cocoon, but gets the knockup coming in from Warlock. But this is going to be 5 members of Young Generation converging onto this bot lane. Lloyd goes down. Glacial Prison connecting onto Pallet. Big Koro getting the kill onto Warlock as well. And that is going to be a clean takedown.
They have to race for the turret. The first turret of the game, both turrets on the top and bot side, very, very low. Actually, not that low on the side of Ren, actually. So that means they get first turret, a sizable amount of gold from the kills. And that's a pretty well-played execution of the dive come from YG.
Indeed, and regardless, looks like as a consolation, Ascension Gaming will be getting 2 turrets off of this towards the top side and mid, respectively.
So in the end, it's actually the opportunity cost. You lose control of the map by going bot side, but you do get a few kills here and there. One for Naul, which he really needs, and Big Koro to help with the scaling.
Yeah, and if you're going to look at it overall in terms of the balance, you know, everything's still fairly equal. So, I'd say equal trade, although with 2 turrets down, that does give much more control to Ascension Gaming, especially towards establishing vision towards the offensive
So they
side.
have to be careful now that Ascension has greater access around the map, greater vision control. But it's up to Ascension to actually use that potential control, because cutting down the first turret in mid lane does not automatically give you control. It gives you the potential for control. And it seems right now Ascension, we'll see how they're going to do it. They have established a ton of vision around the Drake side, around the bot side of the river as well. So this is quite an opportunity for them to take that Infernal Drake. They are taking that opportunity, using the pressure that they have built very, very well, and the control with the wards that they have placed. Infernal Drake is going to be absolutely useful.
Indeed, it looks like Venus getting caught out right there. Not able to repel onto any particular targets for an escape.
Yeah, it seems like this does give turrets to Ascension. So in the long term, it seems like Ascension got the upper hand in that trade for the bot lane kills in trade for the mid lane and top lane turrets. And now they get the bot lane turrets a kill, and they're closing in on the second tier. Ren might go for a flank, but where are his teammates? This might actually just be completely futile if there's no one to support him.
Ooh, Dominus actually popped. But will it lead towards anything? He has to be careful.
Dominus does absolutely squat. And they just give that turret for free, or they can trade it for the top lane. They did trade it for the top lane turret, but this is much more valuable, the second tier turret plus the mid lane turret. Having one turret down in the mid lane and then a second tier turret down on one of the side lanes gives you so much potential for control around that area. And I won't be surprised if Ascension starts doubling down and starting to make plays to pick off YG in their own territory.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely going to give better control for Ascension Gaming, especially towards Dragon right now. So next trick, though, is going to be Ocean. So
Rift Herald will be the next pickup that they will be eyeing. And they can use that Rift Herald for further pushes either mid lane or top lane. So that is quite a threatening proposition, and YG has to act against it.
Yeah,
seems like they will be.
If anything, YG kind of wants to avoid any potential takedowns within these next 2.5 minutes. That would allow Ascension Gaming for a free Rift Herald, but we'll just have to see right here. Venus, though, very, very into deep. Blaze version actually connecting. This is going to be very, very tricky. Rappel onto the minions to try to get the escape, but Lloyd and G4 as well are going to be joining the party right here. Lloyd getting the slow cocoon does hit on him, but looks like Venus will be going down.
Man, Venus really overstayed his welcome there, and YG cannot take anything back to trade with that. So just a free kill onto Ascension, giving it off. Oh, G4, that is aggressive come from Big Goro. Look at that burst with a IE and the Zeal.
Oh no, Lloyd though actually going to try to duel out with Null, but still. Oh, actually still, because of the build-up and a beautiful rend right there.
That's just straight up Naul. Not overestimating his own ability to take down the opposing mid laner. He is 1-3-1, which means that Lloyd can just easily survive through his health, his burst, especially with the health summer spell.
Indeed, plus the fact that if you're going to look at the itemization of Nalo thus far, it doesn't really have as much cooldown. So once all of those abilities went down, that was just death for him.
And look at that. I love how Janna just synergizes so well with Tristana, because she adds so much padding to the mid game, which is the weakest stage of the game for Tristana. Because now you don't even need to build 2 more big items to be a high DPS. Now you just need the shield. The Eye of the Storm gives you AD, and then the Ardent Sensor gives you attack speed. So that's why he was able to kill G4 so quickly. That's why he was so confident when in any other patch and meta where Janna and Ardent Sensor are not like super popular, that just gives him the confidence to do what he normally would not be able to.
There we go, though. So far, Ascension Gaming on the right foot, but then again, it's still not a significant lead, I'd say. I mean, we've been seeing a lot of action, kind of leaning towards Ascension, but regardless, I feel like what's really making up for them here is, again, the sizable...
He misses the web. Would have been big. Would have been a kill at least for one member of YG.
Yeah, but then again, 15 seconds left before Rift Herald says bye-bye.
Actually, already says bye.
There we go.
For 15 seconds before Baron spawns, it will die unless you are already doing it, which means that Rift Herald will be eaten up by Baron.
And there we go, though. Jisoo and Ren kind of juking it out here. Gets the knockup. Cataclysm in, as well as the Dominus in exchange, though. Ren will be slicing and dicing away out of there.
That Bramble Vest is such a great investment for Jisoo, because every heal that Ren gets from the Kuldamik, which empowered by Rage and Fury, it's such a huge, it's like damage. It's like damage for Jisoo. It cuts down half of his healing from that, and it's so effective. And if he did not build the Bramble Vest, Ren would actually be winning that fight.
Indeed.
That's a small gold investment for such a huge return by allowing Jisoo to overpower any push that Ren wants to do solo.
Looks like Ascension Gaming going to be taking down this control ward too, establishing a bit more vision. Big
Goro almost in trouble there. Thankfully, he has the rocket jump.
Look at the clear on this right now.
Definitely. Now that he has a static Shiv and IE, Tristana is starting to build into the late game monster even at 21 minutes, and that's because of the support system that he has with Janna. Let's see if Palette will actually join him to amplify his AD carry very, very soon.
Jisoo just continuing this split with Ren, kind of forced to respond in this case.
At this point, Renekton cannot actually win any 1v1 against Jisoo because mainly of the Bramble Vest and the way that they have itemized. Here, Merc Treads, Ren builds a Merc Treads, while Jisoo builds the Ninja Tabi. So, of course, any solo fight between these top laners will end up in Jisoo's favor.
Dragon is now live as both sides kind of subtly making their way to establish some level of control.
But Baron is a very real objective to be taken, especially with Lloyd on the table on that Callista, has the Blade of Ruin King, has the Ren, so they have to be very careful in trying to face up against that Ocean Drake. But it seems like a few pings here and there for that objective. It could be very useful for either team to pick up regeneration out of combat.
Ooh, Lloyd actually managing to catch out Ren here, forced to back away now. Glacial Prison actually connecting Ren, trying to walk this out here. Heal gonna be procced up here. It looks like he will be able to escape. That is gonna be healed down coming in from Pallet.
We'll see. How does Ascension play this next? Seems like they will cancel the call for the Ocean Drake to try and go for denying the Baron from Ascension.
Jisoo though, continuing the split here. Lloyd just gonna go solo, full on with a great Ren to take down
solo
the dragon.
that. Seems like
Ooh, fight happening here though. G4 instantly goes down to Venus here, but looks like Lloyd continuing the chase here as he seeks out vengeance, takes down Venus right there, and Pallet and now looks like we'll be backing away to leave Ren as that sacrifice. Double kill for the AD carry of Ascension Gaming.
Man, that leaves Lloyd with so much health still, which will allow them to definitely get this Baron. I don't think there's a way that YG can steal this, seeing as both Smite and Ren are up for Lloyd and Noonie. That was such a messy fight come from YG. We'll be seeing how the replay goes, but we'll see if Naul can use his burst damage to steal this Baron. I don't think it's very likely, but
Let's see, coming in, no, goes in.
Definitely
but
not.
Still, regardless, Jisoo, will he be continuing? But no, looks like we'll be backing away for the meantime. But then again, with Baron, who wouldn't, as this is going to be a great reset.
And let's look at the replay here. YG goes for something, and it seems like, I see Big Koro making a very big misplay there. And even though they get the initial kill of the fight, Big Koro jumping in so recklessly means that they no longer have a source of damage. They no longer have a source of long-range damage because Naul is not enough burst damage against 4 members. They needed Big Koro to be a consistent damage stealer there, but instead, Big Koro gets greedy, jumps in, tries to jump out, but at that point, Jisoo already caught him in his clutches.
Was a little bit too tunnel vision-y on G4 there.
That's true.
And as a result, again, like you mentioned, was hoping, along with that reset on the jump, was hoping to jump out. But then again, these are a lot of members.
Because that was
pretty
good positioning pre-fight.
Yeah.
I
definitely.
believe that rocket jump single-handedly lost Young Generation that fight.
Definitely, I'd have to agree with you right there. And overall, this is going to be great pressure coming in from Ascension Gaming. Going to make very good use of this Baron Buffalo. G4 does know something is up, and
that
almost
hurts.
gets now. Oh, that's a lot of damage right there. Looks like now we'll be able to survive with slither of health.
It seems like G4, because he's building into the Beyonders, was not able to finish that off the kill. But since Naul is low health, this allows Ascension, without any fear of assassination, to just push that top lane. And they are slowly choking YG out, stealing their resources, pushing down their turrets, not letting them get any breathing room while the Baron buff is available for Ascension.
Now 8-5, and this is just going to be so much pressure being exerted across the sides. Mid actually being pushed down, and Lloyd getting the kill onto Venus right here, just kind of kiting around. They might have to be careful here. Double kill actually, now that we realize, but still, inner turret is down, so they have to hold off any further pursuit. But still interesting because Jisoo just kind of splitting like no.
Yeah. And look at his CS, 260 at 25 minutes. That's actually pretty phenomenal.
Indeed.
And it's actually right now giving them so much opportunity to get these mid lane turrets. And all that G4 still has unleashed power, just uses it. Big Koro has to go back to the Fountain, which gives Ascension even more time with his turret. And I think they can actually take out the inhibitor. YG might want to do something or make something happen here now that they have all members available, but now Ascension signals to go away.
There we go, Ascension showing great restraint. We'll be going back to the meantime. No rush, because that isn't him inhibitor rounds.
Let's look at the replay for how that fight near the mid lane happened. They don't have vision over here. Venus tries to go for denying the vision, but instead walks into his death. The long-range initiation come from Noonie is so effective, and this allows him to get a pick off which leads to the inhibitor being taken down.
And this is the beauty of the Sejuani ultimate right there, Glacial Prison. You know, it's a very unique initiation tool where you don't even have to be in range. You just have to throw it out and boom, go in once you secure the
Venus,
target.
look at all that health loss, and I don't think he can escape from Jisoo. He's worth 224 gold. That is quite low. That means that he has not contributed to a big kill in quite a while, and he has not actually farmed enough gold to reset his bounty. So that says a lot to how much Venus has been pressuring in this game, and after the initial few ganks, it seems like he has not. And he was performing so well in the group stage, but here it seems like Ascension is cutting down on that effectiveness.
Indeed, indeed. Young Generation looking at some kryptonite in the form of the Thai squad here. Ascension Gaming just kind of boding their time, waiting to get the opportunity to push in on this inhibitor turret, waiting for that.
Oh, Lloyd, that is aggressive positioning. He can jump out very easily.
That was scary.
It was styling on them. So now the priority is to take down this turret. YG wants to make something happen here. There's a lane being pushed into the top side. That's a huge wave. And I think Ascension knows it, and they do not want to lose any momentum here. So they just have to take away that wave or position themselves to an Ocean Drake very, very soon.
Loving the restraint here coming in from Ascension Gaming. You know, not really rushing because technically they are at a great advantage right now.
9,000.
Exactly, leaning towards a 9,000 gold difference.
They just need Jisoo to clear that wave. He has a teleport, so he can respond to the very next fight, which I believe will either be at the last tier turret of YG's bot side or the Dragon.
I gotta say, from most of the games that I've been seeing thus far, Jarvan IV has been quite the asset for most of the games that we've been seeing here in the knockout stage. Really worked wonders for the Gigabyte Marines and as well as for Ascension right now. I mean, Jisoo performing absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I think Jarvan has pretty much replaced champions like Lee Sin, and I think even Renekton is outclassed by Jarvan, whether it's topside or in the jungle, because Jarvan pretty much plays a pretty big role and a similar role at that to both Renekton and Lee Sin in each role. And the pressure and damage you get in the early game allows you to really snowball and still be relevant come mid game, late game, where champions such as Lee and Renekton usually fall off. And here, Jisoo is still useful throughout the fight because of the way he can change terrain, and then the knockup, it can be so consistent. You can pretty much almost get 2 knockups for 1 flag if you have maximum CDR. We'll see how YG reacts to all of this. This is quite a lot of pressure coming from Ascension, and YG does not want to falter, especially with Baron being spawned in less than a minute.
Ooh, this is tricky right here. Just as Young Generation established some level of defensive vision in their own jungle, down it goes with Ascension, just kind of on top of everything, denying them that control once again on their jungle, and that's just going to leave them blind right now.
Jisoo still really hard pushing this bot side, and at this point, Ren cannot 1v1 him, and even anyone else is actually in danger of dying to Jisoo if they try to fight him.
And Baron is going to be up right now, and we're just going to have to see, will Young Generation be able to contest this though? Because if this Baron goes down, I feel
G4 is
like
building up quite a sizable amount of spears. If ever he wants to assassinate someone, Venus right around the corner. They do not actually have vision because of the control ward.
No, this is going to be it. Actually,
Ooh,
still
attempt at a
managed.
steal.
Venus might be in a bit of trouble though. Doesn't
He's
have
dead.
any target to repel her. And down he goes as Lloyd gets the kill.
Godlike streak for Lloyd. And with another Baron buff up their sleeves, Ascension tries to go for more pushes. Now the top side of the map is their target, and they will just quickly burn through these minions with a wave clear that they have. Red inhibitor for YG respawns in the mid lane, so this does give them a little bit of breathing room by relieving the super minion pressure from the mid lane, but now they have to feel even more crushing pressure from the top side, from Ascension. And bot side, dude, Jisoo is just pushing this so effectively.
Oh, trying to make something work in the sideline, but that's going to be very tricky. So has to respect pressure coming in from Ascension.
Look at how quickly Lloyd is demolishing these turrets.
Ooh, no, trying to force something here.
There's a TP from Jisoo.
Oh, there we go. Are we going to be seeing a fight, though? Jisoo actually tries to go in there. Turret does go down, but looks like the first casualty will be Ren, as Young Generation trying to back away right now. That's going to be a double kill for Jisoo right there. Venus will be the next casualty. Only Big Koro to defend. I don't think he'll be able to do so,
That's actually game with 40-second death timers. All members alive for Ascension. I think they're just going to go straight for the Nexus turrets and end the game right here. Big Koro alone is not enough to try and defend against this onslaught, and I think Ascension is going to take away game one of the second match for today. Ascension from Thailand versus YG, Young Generation from Vietnam. Ascension takes away the first victory.
There you go. So I guess it's very clear right now that the Thai squad, you know, really showing that they've been prepared. Then again, I wouldn't be surprised because we've seen Young Generation perform during the group stage, and you know that could technically be a disadvantage as well because that gave Ascension game a lot of time, a lot of preparation to scout out,
study and prepare.
So you know, some kind of distinguish what the weaknesses might be for YG here. So, but nonetheless, really great game.
Very great game. I love how Ascension played that very methodically. They knew when to have restraint, and they knew when to actually strike when they were most vulnerable, and that allowed them to ascend in that game actually.
Yeah, ascend indeed, the pun. But regardless, ladies and gents, that has been game one. Of course, this is a best of 5, so we'll just have to see if Young Generation can make this comeback after that defeat. But nonetheless, of course, we have been your casters, Arctic at your service, fam, and with me is Atlas. We'll be right back for the Garena Premier League 2017 summer season. Stick around. So G4 instantly goes down to Venus here, but looks like Lloyd continuing the chase here as he seeks out vengeance, takes down Venus right there, and Alec, and that looks like we'll be backing away to leave Ren as that sacrifice. Double kill for the AD carry. No, trying to force something here.
Got the TP from Jisoo.
Oh, there we go. Are we going to be seeing a fight? Though Jisoo actually tries to go in there. Turret does go down, but looks like the first casualty will be Ren, as Young Generation trying to back away right now. That's going to be a double kill for Jisoo right there. Venus will be the next casualty. Only Big Koro to defend. I don't think he'll be able to do so.
That's actually game with 40-second death timers. All members alive for Ascension. I think they're just going to go straight for the Nexus turrets and end the game right here. Big Koro alone is not enough to try and defend against this onslaught, and I think Ascension is going to take away game one of the second match for today. Ascension from Thailand versus YG, Young Generation from Vietnam. Ascension takes away the first victory.
There you go.